Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, I don't know how you read that scripture or how you understand that scripture, but it means something to me because in the beginning, God created. Create means that he was absolute in what he did. Everything that was going to be or ever has been or will be was created that very beginning, in the very beginning. God created the heavens and the earth, everything that's in heaven and everything on earth. In the beginning, it was absolute. It was completed. When we know that there's scripture that talks about the fact that everything that was and everything that is has always been, according to the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 3. And men must give an account of those things. So when we read that scripture, what does it mean to us? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If everything was absolute, how can we move into verse 2 where it says the earth was without form or void, and God's Spirit moved upon the face of the deep or the dark in the waters, and God's Spirit began to move, and then God said. We call that the creation time, that God is creating. But that's not true. Chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created. Absolute. Consequently, what took place between chapter 1, verse 1, and verse 2? Well, we know this. The scripture teaches in the book of Isaiah that Satan said, I'm going to exalt myself above God. He began to talk about what he was going to do and how he was going to rise above God, and that God ended up casting him down from heaven, along with a third of the angels. In fact, Jesus said it this way. He said, I saw Satan fall from heaven as lightning to the earth. So when Satan came down to earth, he created havoc upon what God had created. And that's what the thief does. He comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. But watch this now. I want to get this thought into your spirit real quick. When he talked about that the earth was without form or void, the word they're talking about without form, it talked about the fact that it is now in a confused state of being, that you can't identify for what it is. When it talks about confusion and it talks about that the world is lying in waste, it's worthless, one translation says. And then we look at the term void, and the void means undistinguishable. It means that there's something that's taken place that caused what God has created to no longer look like what God had created. That's the void. And I find myself many times in life as I've dealt with things that I cannot identify sometimes what I'm looking at. I can't identify why the circumstance is the way that it is. I can't identify why I'm struggling through these difficulties at times in life. But I learned something a long time ago, the way God dealt with the void, the emptiness, the waste, the desolation, that which had been so confused that it couldn't be identified just by looking at it. God took his word and he began to speak his word. And when he began to speak his word, he began to put everything back into order. Just a quick thought. Everything that God has created, no matter how bad the enemy might try and mess it up, God's not forgotten what he created, and he knows how to put it back together again.
Audio Jungle.